Hi beautiful people, this is Jennifer Kenny. Today I'm here to talk about how critical and creative thinking can lead to innovation. What if the foundation of innovation was really listening, and that innovation happened when you listened, particularly to things that you have previously been ignoring? What would happen if critical thinking was really just the starting point for a conversation that led to innovation because you were playing around with wonder? What if there was a practice model that pulled all of those together and allowed you to be able to start practicing innovation as a regular leadership capability for yourself? By the end of this video, I want you to be able to understand how my 6-step practice model is actually a roadmap for you to be able to incorporate critical and creative thinking to drive innovation, both for yourself and for those around you. When we think about critical and creative thinking, we don't necessarily think about the why. For me, when I think about innovation, the why is always there. We're never innovating for the sake of innovating. We're always innovating for the sake of delivering innovation to others that they will find valuable. Over the years, what I've seen is that the critical and creative thinkers are an incredibly valuable part of any innovation conversation. And I've built a 6-step practice model that I want to step you through that will, I believe, allow you to be able to see how those types of thinking can actually contribute in a very valuable way to innovation practices. If you're interested in building innovation capacity within your organization and you want to leverage your critical and creative thinkers to be able to do that, there's a 6-step practice model that I have included in my book, The Innovation Mindset. And I think it's something that you will find particularly interesting. The 6-step practice model starts off with the idea that we start looking at distinctions in order for us to be able to think differently about what is innovation. Those distinctions are actually distinctions around how people innovate. One of the things to recognize as you start identifying for yourself what is innovation. Innovation really comes from conversations that human beings have with each other. Those conversations go through a 4-step phase. The conversations are really about design and co-creation or co-invention together. What happens in those conversations is we begin to identify requests that we make of each other. Sometimes those requests can lead to an incredible amount of innovation because rather than lobbing work over the wall, what we are doing is we are bringing together two creative thinkers, two critical thinkers or critical and creative thinkers, and we are actually putting them in a position where they are going to co-invent with each other. If we're able to help them observe the process that they're going through to get to that moment of co-invention, what we can do is we can help them create conversations that allow them to be able to bring their respective mastery to the table. In doing that, what happens is they move from being able to observe the dance that they're doing together, to be able to have those conversations, to be able to really observe for themselves what it is that they're doing as they're having them, and then to be able to co-invent together. Once they start doing co-invention, which the way I think about co-invention as opposed to co-creation is co-invention really recognizes someone else's respective mastery. And it recognizes the conversation that I'm having with them, whether they are my internal customer and I am treating them like a customer, I am making an offer to them, I'm bringing something valuable to them, and they are working with me to refine and design the value that I'm bringing. That level of co-creation is almost like improv in comedy. What it does is it allows people to be able to move from I'm just adding on top of what it is that you're saying to the dance of I recognize your mastery, you recognize mine, we are building on top of each other over time and elevating anything that we are able to do together. Once we start observing and distinguishing what it is that we're doing as we move through this process of having these conversations, and we begin to identify co-invention as an area that we want to be able to build mastery in together, What happens over time is we now position ourselves to be able to create knowledge together. There's a very serious struggle that organizations have today, which is the interdisciplinary and the cross-functional conversations that are in large part missing within our organizations. If we are able to take a language model of innovation and recognize that innovation is a practice of having these powerful co-inventive conversations, what happens over time is that we position ourselves to be able to recognize the relationship between powerful co-inventive conversations that create knowledge, both cross-functional, interdisciplinary, and within a discipline. And as that happens, we position ourselves to be able to innovate more effectively together. So the 6-step practice model moves us from distinguishing what it is that we're doing in conversation, beginning to observe those conversations happening on a recurring basis, co-inventing together based on our individual and collective mastery, practicing the courage that we need to be able to have those conversations and to be able to make offers with each other, design together, declare breakdowns together, develop standards together, build metrics together. We can then co-invent based on our own respective levels of mastery, and in doing so, we create knowledge together. That knowledge becomes one of the most powerful drivers of innovation within our organizations. And it actually allows us to be able to recognize innovation as a practice. It allows us to be able to bring our critical and creative thinkers together in a very productive environment that allows them to be able to have conversations at the micro level that produce innovation at the more macro level. As we work our way through the 6-step practice model, I started off with distinguish. That is where we build the common language around what it means for us to innovate together. In that common language, we build a set of distinctions, we build a set of practices that allow us to be able to understand innovation as a co-inventive conversation that we have with other people. That common language is then what allows us to be able to bring in our critical and creative thinkers. They now share a common language around innovation, which is really the purpose of their work. And we are now able to leverage that in order to be able to create innovative results and innovation capacity within our organization. So critical and creative thinking can absolutely lead to innovation if you put the right structures in place. The 6-step practice model is the structure that allows you to be able to work through the process to create innovation. The most important part of it is to build a common language between the players who you are looking to work together to innovate. That common language really has to do with how innovation happens at the absolutely micro level and can lead to innovation at the macro level. At the micro level, it's about having conversations for design and having conversations for co-invention. If you build that shared understanding with people, you will allow them to be able to distinguish how innovation shows up in language. You'll allow them to observe it happening in multiple instances across the company. They will be invited into a space where they can courageously begin to have those types of conversations with the shared language that they're building, and ultimately that will lead to powerful innovation. If you like this video, if you found the 6-step practice model useful, then you will find more on how I think about innovation and how you can think about innovation as a recurring practice in this video above. I look forward to hearing from you in the comments. Take care and best of luck.